super lucky disaster man. Chapter 43, You need to protect your things properly. To make long story short, Dr. Agasa said that this morning, the landlord grandpa was fishing with him when he received a phone call. It seemed to be from his youngest son. Anyway, after the call, he got agitated and then passed out. The hospital said it was a stroke, and they're currently contacting his family. Kudo Shinichi sighed and said, anyway, he probably doesn't have the energy to handle the rental matter. Sorry, senpai, I didn't expect it to turn out like this. Komaeda Nagito listened to Kudo Shinichi's words. Although he was a bit surprised at first, he calmly said, it's alright. Sometimes, things like this do happen. There was some unexpected situation that temporarily appeared, but for Komaeda Nagito, it was just an everyday occurrence. However, it was still unfortunate. If he had signed the contract directly last time, he might have moved in by now, but as a result, everything has returned to the starting point. I'll go accompany Dr. Agasa at the hospital in a bit. Would you like to come along, senpai? Kudo Shinichi said. After all, Dr. Agasa was with him when the incident happened, so I suppose they might have questions for him. If Dr. Agasa can't clearly explain things, it could be troublesome. Family members can sometimes be unreasonable, so it's better if he goes along. Komaeda Nagito refused. I'm not going, I'm just a person looking to rent a place, and I'm not even familiar with the landlord, so going might lead to misunderstandings about my intentions, plus it might cause more trouble. You ask on my behalf, let him rest well. Kudo Shinichi thought about Komaeda Nagito's constitution, then considered that the destination was a hospital, a place where nothing should go wrong, so he wholeheartedly agreed, true. Then, senpai, stay at the hotel a bit longer, I'll help you look again later. Thank you, Kudo-kun, but it's no trouble. Komaeda Nagito said with a wry smile, I guess I probably won't be able to rent a place anytime soon. Kudo Shinichi was puzzled, why do you say that? Komaeda Nagito pondered, because today has been particularly lucky. Kudo Shinichi. Senpai has started again. Kudo Shinichi, already used to this, didn't say anything, simply chatted for a bit, then hung up the phone, planning to visit Dr. Agasa at the hospital. After Komaeda Nagito hung up the phone, he also started sighing. What to do now? Why is renting a place so difficult? Should he really think of a way to buy a house? So the next goal is to change from renting to buying a house, huh? Misfortunes truly never come alone. Just as Komaeda Nagito had finished packing his luggage, the door to his room was knocked upon. When Komaeda Nagito opened the door, he found that the person standing there had a badge on their chest that read, Hotel Manager. The manager's purpose was quite clear, but they spoke in a very tactful manner. Basically, it was something like, we haven't seen your uncle for a long time now. As a minor who has been staying alone at the hotel for an extended period, if this were to be investigated, it would put us in a difficult position, so we hope you can understand, blah blah. In fact, the hotel must have long known that Komaeda Nagito was staying alone. It was just because, temporarily, there was no necessity to do anything, so they let it slide for a while. After all, who wouldn't want to make money? However, today there are two truly intimidating black-clad men arriving. Not only did they specifically target a particular room, but they also inquired about the adjacent room related to Komaeda Nagito. There were even police officers investigating earlier, making the hotel staff start feeling uneasy. The Japanese follow regulations not because they actually like obeying rules, but because it makes it easier for them to evade responsibility. Even if they make exceptions for a while, as soon as something goes wrong, they will immediately revert to, we are simply acting according to the regulations. Komaeda Nagito found himself in precisely this kind of situation. Of course, the hotel couldn't directly chase away guests in the middle of the night. The manager spoke particularly politely, especially tactfully, even offering small gifts and bowing at a 90-degree angle frequently. The etiquette was all in place, showing that they considered the possibility of inconvenience for the guests. Therefore, they allowed a grace period, hoping that by next week the guests could find a place to settle. Seeing off the polite hotel manager, Komaeda Nagito let out a deep sigh. How unfortunate. It came even faster and more overwhelming than I imagined. Komaeda Nagito didn't expect the original landlord to help him find another hotel. After all, they'd already received the payment, there was no need to care for him any further. This one is really a headache, what should he do in a week? The next day, Monday, during lunchtime, Kudo Shinichi went to find Komaeda Nagito, and the two of them found a stone bench to sit down and eat sandwiches. Komaeda-senpai. Kudo Shinichi looked at Komaeda Nagito, whose face still had some cat scratch marks and whose hand was wrapped in a bandage, guessing, did you get attacked by a stray cat? The scratches on my face are from the landlord grandpa's cat. Komaeda Nagito smiled nonchalantly, raising his bandaged hand. As for my hand, it was scalded by boiling water. Ha ha ha, it feels like I've been unlucky ever since last night. Kudo Shinichi. Is this something you can laugh about? The future detective sighed, not wanting to ask again if it was water spilling or accidentally being splashed by someone, or was it Komaeda-senpai himself who knocked over a cup. He quickly jumped to another topic. Is it still possible to stay at the hotel, senpai? This situation unexpectedly happened, and if senpai had already checked out, it would be somewhat troublesome. As a matter of fact, I haven't checked out yet, Komaeda Nagito said. But because some people who looked like members of the mafia showed up, the hotel got a bit nervous and wanted me to check out in a week. Kudo Shinichi's attention was immediately caught by the mention of the mafia. Mafia? Did you see them? Komaeda Nagito recalled some of Morofushi Hiromitsu's instructions, and after confirming that there were no related issues, he immediately revealed, I met two men dressed entirely in black, one of whom was called Jin. Jin. Kudo Shinichi seemed to be pondering, this doesn't sound like a real name, more like a code name. Senpai, do you know anything else? The Yakuza in Japan are legal, but having such a mysterious code name likely means what they're doing isn't exactly lawful. Kudo Shinichi, 14 years old this year, was overly confident in his own abilities. When he heard there might be a situation, he got excited and urged Komaeda Nagito to reveal a bit more. He fancied himself as the protagonist of a detective story, capable of discovering major cases from the traces left behind, even solving them before the police could. The scariest part was, Komaeda Nagito didn't mind at all. He believed that if Kudo Shinichi truly had the potential to be a great detective, then giving Kudo-kun some hints would be helping him find the stage to showcase his talents, letting the light of hope shine brightly. As for whether Kudo Shinichi might end up in danger because of it, Komaeda Nagito doesn't mind this at all. To him, dying because of becoming his friends is one thing, but sacrificing oneself for a greater cause is another. He uses his own mindset to interpret others, naturally concluding that Kudo-kun must also be willing to sacrifice for the sake of detective work. These two reckless people come together, as long as the intel is accurate, something is bound to happen. Fortunately, Komaeda Nagito, limited by confidentiality regulations, could only say with regret, I don't know much beyond this. However, if Kudo-kun continues being a detective, who knows, you might have a chance to encounter it. After all, solving mysteries is a detective's destiny, right? These words, even for someone as blindly passionate about the detective profession as Kudo Shinichi, couldn't help but resonate with his conscience. What a coincidence that would be, ah! There are so many strange and peculiar organizations in this world. How could he possibly, later on, just happen to coincidentally run into the organization that Komaeda-senpai talked about today? To have this kind of thought, indeed, because for Komaeda-senpai, the probability of coincidences happening is just too high, it can't even be considered coincidence, it can only be considered a normal progression. But he's still just an ordinary person. Things like this wouldn't happen to him. Moreover, does senpai perhaps have some misunderstanding about the detective profession? Kudo Shinichi said tactfully, although solving mysteries is my passion, investigating and taking down illegal organizations are not exactly things detectives do. Komaeda Nagito blinked, is that so? Kudo Shinichi said firmly, yes. Alright then. Komaeda Nagito said regretfully, I thought I could see Kudo-kun brimming with hope while solving the case. Kudo Shinichi secretly wiped his sweat, deciding to change the topic a bit, feeling that if he continued down this path, Komaeda-senpai might want to see him have a one-on-one duel with the criminal mastermind. By the way, I lent the book, Dandanbashi, Ojita, to my dad. Komaeda Nagito made an "oh" sound. Did Yusaku-san say anything? Kudo Shinichi recalled, according to my mom, he was so angry he couldn't sleep all night. Komaeda Nagito couldn't help but laugh. Sorry. There's nothing, I understand. Kudo Shinichi also smiled, the essence is in playing with the readers, I once thought about excluding it from detective novels. Ahem, what I meant was, I wanted to ask, does Little Raccoon-san have any new works? Ah, this, Komaeda Nagito blinked, it's only been a few days since the last one. He hadn't had time to gather Edogawa Ranpoa's materials, nor had he been free to recall new novel to exchange, so there were certainly no new works to see. Ah, but since Kudo Shinichi asked. Actually, if you want to see Little Raccoon-san new work, there are two ways. Komaeda Nagito raised his right index finger, the first way is to exchange a detective novel that he finds challenging with him. The second. Komaeda Nagito raised another finger, is to gather information on Edogawa Ranpo. Kudo Shinichi was instantly stunned, wait. Edogawa Ranpo? Yes, it seems that he regards Edogawa Ranpo-san as a worthy rival and pays a lot of attention to him, but it's inconvenient overseas. Komaeda Nagito explained, so I plan to start collecting information on Edogawa Ranpo-san's detective cases. No other choice, even though he had heard of Edogawa Ranpoa's famous name, he had never thought of collecting information about these people in this world, he only wanted to enjoy his own peaceful days. As a result, now he had to start everything from scratch. Immediately, Kudo Shinichi exclaimed, I have it. I have Ranpo-san's information. Komaeda Nagito wasn't surprised, Kudo-kun likes Ranpo-san too. Exactly. Kudo Shinichi said excitedly, because Ranpo-san is so amazing. I've heard that as soon as he arrives at a crime scene, he can immediately determine who the culprit is. No matter what the case is, he can solve it very quickly, like the savior of the Yokohama Police Department, practically a real-life Holmes. It's a pity that when he occasionally goes somewhere else to solve cases, I couldn't catch up to him, it's really regrettable. It doesn't matter. Komaeda Nagito comforted him, I'm also in Yokohama, and I haven't seen him at a crime scene. Kudo Shinichi sighed, so Little Raccoon-san also knows Ranpo-san. Has Ranpo-san's fame spread abroad? Or perhaps, has Little Raccoon-san been to Japan before? That's not very clear, but it's not bad if it happens some days. Komaeda Nagito said, Kudo-kun, I'm shamelessly requesting you. I know. It's about Ranpo-san's information, right? No problem. Kudo Shinichi said, I've cut out every article about him to make a scrapbook. Senpai, do you have a USB? If you bring it, I can get you an electronic version by tomorrow. Komaeda Nagito expressed his gratitude over and over. Thank you so much, Kudo-kun. It's truly my luck to know you. No need to thank me. Kudo Shinichi didn't say anything further, since it was all about friendship nonsense anyway. Whether someone is a friend or not isn't determined by what they say. I was simply personally interested, it was no big deal and took no effort. But if it could be exchanged for Little Raccoon-san's novel, remember to let me read it too. No problem, Little Raccoon-san already knew I'd have to take it to you. Komaeda Nagito said. But many of Ranpo-san's cases actually aren't in the news at all. Besides, most of what I have is old information, new ones are relatively scarce. Kudo Shinichi pondered. Might it not be enough? Komaeda Nagito started provoking him again. Hey, Kudo-kun, want to try writing a detective novel? This time, Kudo Shinichi didn't reject it so quickly but actually started seriously considering it. I'll give it a try, though having too many ideas is a problem. This idea is already great. Komaeda Nagito said, but if you're really planning to write it, you can't just keep thinking about it in your head, it's best to write it down and see. I know an author who wanted to continue writing the ending of a certain novel, but after many years, not a single word has moved. Kudo Shinichi, it might not take many years, but maybe after a break tonight, I'll start trying to write. Teenagers, always eager to explore new things, especially someone like Kudo Shinichi who is so confident, and with a father who is quite famous in the detective novel world, he can't possibly think that he lacks talent in that field. Now he's been given new motivation, and from the looks of it, he might be able to write a book by the end of the year. Komaeda Nagito naturally encouraged him. Well then, I'll look forward to your great work, Kudo-kun. It's not some great work, stop saying that, it's really embarrassing. Overconfident to the point of arrogance, Kudo Shinichi meets his natural nemesis. Continuing to live together with Komaeda Nagito, it wouldn't be long before Kudo Shinichi might have an allergy to praise, instead becoming a humble low-profile boy. Feeling embarrassed, Kudo Shinichi had no choice but to change the topic again. Why is it that chatting with Komaeda-senpai always ends up killing the mood? Komaeda-senpai, the hotel over there can only stay for another week, what do you plan to do after that? I give up, I plan to see if I can buy a place. Komaeda Nagito sighed, that way the options can be broader, though 1 week's time might not be enough. I thought so too. Kudo Shinichi agreed, saying, I also feel responsible. If there's still no news after another week, why don't you stay at my place? As I mentioned before, my parents are traveling around the world, so there's no one at home. This time, Komaeda Nagito didn't directly refuse. He sighed and said, let's see how things go. It wouldn't come to the point of having nowhere to stay. On Tuesday, Kudo Shinichi scanned a newspaper clipping about Edogawa Ranpo that he had made and put the electronic version on a USB for Komaeda Nagito. Komaeda Nagito, naturally, thanked him while accepting it, and handed over a box of desserts given by the hotel manager to Kudo Shinichi as a token of gratitude. Kudo Shinichi knew that if he didn't accept, he would be subjected to an endless barrage from Komaeda Nagito, so he took it and showed some concern. How is it, senpai, have you found a place you like? I found one, I'll go check it out after school today. Komaeda Nagito smiled, now that I think about it, I really should have bought a house when I got blacklisted from renting. Kudo Shinichi, it's not that bad. It's true that middle school students wouldn't usually consider buying a place just because of an issue, and it was normal not to think of it back then, but to gain such a bad reputation in the rental market is rare indeed. Kudo-kun, any progress on the novel? Komaeda Nagito, much like an editor, eagerly asked the author he admired. Kudo Shinichi couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. Currently I'm tangled up with a Snow Lodge case and a locked room murder, still need to think it through a bit. Ah, right, I also have plans with a classmate to eat bento. Here is the USB. I'll leave first, see you, senpai. Watching Kudo Shinichi flee hurriedly, Komaeda Nagito regretfully withdrew his gaze. Hopefully, before the end of the year, Kudo-kun can start writing. Considering that he was always losing things, Komaeda Nagito did not wait until after school to return to the hotel, nor did he use the hotel's computer to send Edogawa Ranpo's information to Little Raccoon-san. Instead, he waited until during computer class in the afternoon, to divide some parts of the files and send them to Little Raccoon-san via personal email. The size was too large, so he split it up for transmission, hoping he might get some novel points out of it. After confirming that the email had been sent, Komaeda Nagito let out a sigh of relief. For the past 2 days, he had been unlucky and nothing had gone smoothly. To have successfully sent it out was truly great. After computer class, some people went to participate in club activities right after, while those heading home left school. Komaeda Nagito casually slipped the USB into his uniform pocket, returned to the classroom to grab his already packed school bag, and headed out the school gate. He planned to go look at apartments. It was better to settle these kinds of things as soon as possible, to end it sooner. He couldn't give up just because things weren't going smoothly lately. What if, while looking at apartments, luck suddenly smiled upon him? Komaeda Nagito first noted down the route to the apartments on his phone. The house isn't very close to the school, commuting requires taking the bus for 2 stops. Aside from that, everything else meets Komaeda Nagito's requirements well. Moreover, 2 stops aren't too far, so Komaeda Nagito is still quite satisfied and plans to conduct an on-site inspection. After school, the queue at the bus stop was longer compared to other times, and there were also more people on the bus. By the time it was Komaeda Nagito's turn, he just happened to not be able to get on, so he had to wait for the next one. Unfortunately, the timing was not very good, and more people started to crowd in, but fortunately, Komaeda Nagito was finally able to squeeze onto the bus. Almost with his feet dangling, after hanging on for 2 more stops, Komaeda Nagito finally managed to get off the bus, thoroughly worn out. As he got off the bus, someone even stepped on Komaeda Nagito's foot, and something under his foot got in the way, causing him to lose his balance. The USB, which wasn't placed very securely in his pocket, slipped out. "Ah, the USB!" Komaeda Nagito exclaimed, but he was immediately swept a few steps away by the crowd, and his view was blocked by a bunch of heads. Luckily, when Komaeda Nagito finally regained the freedom to move and went back to the spot, he found his USB still there, untouched by anyone. Komaeda Nagito softly breathed out, "That's a relief." Inside it, not only was it contains Kudo-kun painstakingly organizing Edogawa Ranpoa's documents, but there were also some of his own files, assignments left from his previous school, and various other things. There was no telling what might be useful in the future, even if he couldn't recall their purpose at the moment. It could be quite a hassle when it came to finding them again. Instead of casually shoving it into his pocket, he carefully placed the USB into his backpack. Only then did Komaeda Nagito continue walking towards the apartment he wanted to see. What Komaeda Nagito didn't know was that less than half an hour later, someone returned here in a rush, their face anxious as they searched everywhere, but found nothing. They could only call a number with a dejected expression. At least presently, there was nothing visibly wrong to Komaeda Nagito. He smoothly met up with the estate agent, found the apartment he wanted to see, and, under the agent's concealed, "Why is a kid looking at an apartment? Where are the adults?" gaze, inspected the room. One could only say that the information online looked decent, but the situation on site was different, with some issues being quite easy to notice. The agent, who had seen his fair share of ups and downs, noticed that Komaeda Nagito didn't seem satisfied with this apartment and said, "Shall we hurry to see other properties?" Komaeda Nagito looked at the sky, felt it was still alright, and said, "Sure, I'll trouble you." Komaeda Nagito didn't need to take public transportation this time, the agent drove him instead. The reason they didn't pick up Komaeda Nagito before was because Komaeda Nagito had said, wanted to try taking the bus for 2 stops to see how it feels. During their chat on the road, the agent got a bit of insight into Komaeda Nagito's financial situation and predicament. Knowing the other party genuinely wanted to buy a home, they worked even harder to push the sale. Before it got dark, Komaeda Nagito was taken by the agent to see 4 apartments, but unfortunately, none were very satisfactory. The agent was too eager to complete this deal, so instead of bidding farewell, they took Komaeda Nagito to have dinner, intending to chat a bit further. The real estate agent checked the list of available properties, thought for a moment, and said, "Komaeda-san, I have a property here that might meet your requirements. However, there's one issue, it is an inauspicious house." "Haunted?" Komaeda Nagito guessed. The agent shook his head, "It's a murder case. The owner lives elsewhere, and not only was the house broken into, but a dead body was found inside. The owner felt really uneasy and decided to sell it off. If you don't mind, you can take a look, it's also close to the school, within walking distance." Komaeda Nagito had no conflict with this kind of situation. "Then shall we go see this apartment?" He didn't expect that when he opened his wallet to pay, he found that the USB in his wallet had a strange sticky note attached to it. Komaeda Nagito's expression changed. He took out the USB and carefully observed it for a moment. Although it looked very similar, this was not his USB. Chapter 43 End.